Hmm. Thank you, Lisa, and good morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night to all of you. Lovely to see you. And uh, Lisa, we had a brief conversation before we started. Lisa asked me, "How are you feeling?" And I just sat quietly, and just all this gratitude just comes up. These feelings are surprising. Whew, it's very strong. Yeah, very grateful. So, I thought I would start with a meditation. Um, well, I just want to welcome all of you. I really appreciate your interest um, in joining, and wanted to let you know that you do know we're doing this for 7 months, once a month, and um, my hope is this will continue to deepen. It's a curious phenomenon working online, um, rather than working in person. But there is a kind of group field that develops, and it can develop during a meeting and between meetings, and so this is something we're all not so much creating but opening to, and sensing into. So, in other words, there's always an implicit shared heart and shared ground, and as we explore this, it's naturally evoked. And interestingly, it's not limited by space or time. So we're all attuning, as it were, to the same depth of ground as we explore, and that will build, I think, over the months, even with a large group, large online group like this. So anyway, we'll see what unfolds. But I appreciate your interest and your sustained interest in this, and it's something that will be of support to everyone. So I'd like to start with a meditation, and then even though I said I wasn't going to give a short talk, of course I'm going to break my rule and give a short talk by way of introduction, and then we can talk about the book as well. But I think it's good to start just by settling in, and so I encourage you to sit comfortably upright and feet on the floor or legs comfortably folded, and to close your eyes and take several slow, deep breaths. And just allowing your attention to drop down into the trunk of your body. Just a note to the mind, there's really no work to do, nothing to attain or change about your experience or yourself. But it's enough to simply be as you are. So, permission to deeply relax and simply be. Feeling the weight of your body held and relaxing into that sense of being held. Feeling your breath lower in the body. As if you could breathe from your lower belly. And now, as if breathing from the underground space, the inhalation arising from the depths, and the exhalation releasing, emptying out into the underground depths. And paying particular attention to the exhalation. And with the exhalation, sensing into the openness of the underground space. There's no efforting here. It's really an attunement. A felt sense of listening underground with the lower half of your body and the space beneath your body. And the breath and the exhalation is a kind of anchor. And that continues to deepen. There's a willingness here to completely empty out. And to sense into how vast this underground space is. Is there any boundary? Is there any periphery? There's no grasping of the inhalation. It comes of its own. So we savor in the letting go, the release. Trusting the in-breath will come of its own. And if resistance arises in the form of fear or contraction or distraction, we simply welcome it without an agenda to fix or change, but rather with a curious affection. And if no resistance arises, we continue to deeply rest. In this openness, and as this openness. It's interesting to feel kind of the group settling and deepening as we sit together. It's beautiful. So I wanted to say a little bit about the purpose of this group, at least as I envision it. Life has its own purpose, which is unknowable, but we have our individual intentions, and I certainly have one with this group, or several. One is, I know with this kind of material, it's one thing to buy a book, whether in print or audio form, and it's another to actually read it or listen to it. Have you noticed I've got a pile of books over here that are sitting for a while I haven't read yet. And then it's another not just to read it or listen to it, but to really take it in a deep way, in a way that Lisa was talking about, where you just really slow down. And it's not just informational, it's something that is something to savor in terms of resonance, something to feel into, something to explore in your own experience. And this is something, this theme of how to share the understanding in a way that's palpable, in a way that's experiential, in a way that's meaningful. This has been an ongoing question, and as I've been teaching more publicly, is like how to translate, how to transpose this understanding, and this book is an attempt to do that. And so my invitation to you would be to really, even though we're going to be kind of going through several chapters per meeting, on your own, when you're reading or you're listening to the book, if something really touches you, to really slow down and explore that and take it more deeply. That's the real point of the book. It's not just to entertain or inform, but to encourage a deep exploration on the part of the reader or the listener. So having this, I was toying with this idea of having a book group and doing an online book group, and then Lisa recommended it, and that sort of sparked my willingness to do it. We were, as often the case, very attuned, and I realized this is something I very much would be willing to do, and something that I would not want to charge for. I don't want money to get in the way. It really feels important that it's a free offering. And that's my feeling about this sharing this understanding too. There's so much monetizing of spiritual teaching, and I try to minimize that. And certainly in the book case, we're doing that. In the book group, we're doing that. So part of my intention is to help in this transposition or translation of the material into your own experience, in terms of taking it in and working with it and feeling how it impacts. And my hope is also that you'll tell friends and family and colleagues about it. I don't seem to have the capacity or motivation to do any kind of marketing. When I think of doing social media campaigns, it's just like, it just falls flat. I mean, I think I posted one thing on Facebook. I rarely go on Facebook. And it was like, that was almost too much to do. I just don't seem to be wired or oriented this way. But I do understand the importance of word of mouth. When a friend tells a friend or a family member or a colleague something that is deeply touching, that to me feels like a much more organic way of sharing. And so if this material touches you in some way, inspires you, I encourage you to let a few friends and colleagues know. And also, I think in the introductory material, I would hope, if you feel inspired, to post a review, an authentic one, from if that opportunity avails you. So if you've read the whole book or listened to the whole book at this point, I would appreciate it if you let people know about it one way or another. So that's my intention. The primary one is to help support the unfolding of the understanding for you, to make it your own, and the other is just to share it authentically with others. So, a little bit about this book. And as I was sitting with it this morning, an hour ago, wondering what I might want to share, uh, there were two, what I would call a green light and a red light experience that I wanted to share with you about the process of how this book came to be. So actually two green lights. The first green light is just this material, this sharing the last book, well, actually all three books, In Touch, The Deep Heart, and Your Deepest Ground, feels like it's been an upwelling, and an upwelling and an outpouring, um, mm, I didn't have some big intention to write a trilogy of books, but as I've worked with people, and for one-on-one work for over 4 decades as a depth psychotherapist, now retired, and now in the last decade doing retreats and groups, small groups and big groups. And in terms of my own process of unfolding, um, I've discovered a lot. And, as you know, I've been integrating the kind of depth psychological work with the non-dual understanding. And this confluence has been a real point of interest for me in terms of how to work with and be with conditioning as the process of awakening unfolds. In other words, how does the process of healing and awakening influence one another? And it's quite subtle and deep. So this has been my study, both within my own experience and my experience with working with people and working with many of you who've been following this process for either recently or over many years. So that's sort of the broad green light. It's like just keep opening and keep sharing the understanding and keep trusting. So this has been kind of the foundational movement for these books. And then more specifically, I have felt for years this these themes of the heart and the ground to be really central in this process of healing and awakening, the unfolding and the resistance to unfolding for both of these domains. So I had thought I would write a book about both the heart and the ground originally after I did In Touch. And then it became clear, actually it clarified in a conversation with Tammy Simon, who said, "Oh, John, you've got a couple of books left in you." And I thought, "Oh, I thought there was just one, but I guess there's two." And so, I wrote The Deep Heart. And when that finished, I knew there was another book to write. It felt like a pregnancy, if you will, although of course I've never been pregnant, but I imagine a pregnancy might feel. And so really as soon as the last book was finished, I knew that once I'd kind of given that baby a good send-off into the world, that it was time to bring attention to the theme of the ground. But it took a while for that process to gestate and clarify. So the second green light is more specific that I experienced. And this happened a little less than 3 years ago. It was in September 2002. Would that be right? I guess. Um, and I was invited by a good friend, Jonathan, who may be on this call, to his family's cabin up in the Eastern Sierra, and in a beautiful high lake area. And one morning I was up there for a few days, and the first morning I went for a walk along the lake, and this is in the fall, and there are beautiful aspens in the Eastern Sierra, in the high Sierras, if any of you have been there, and or those in the Rockies as well, and these are among my favorite trees because they have these small leaves that shimmer in the wind, and the green leaves, and then in the fall they start changing colors. They change from green to yellow to gold. And at this point, it was the end of September, and they turned to gold. They were like yellow to gold. And I was walking above the lake and in a kind of wilderness area, and I came across this grove of shimmering aspens. just like the leaves were just like trembling in the wind, shimmering in it. And I stopped. I just stopped walking and just took this in and had a kind of unusual experience. And I've actually talked about this only once publicly, and don't very often, but this morning it felt relevant because it's relevant to the writing of this book. So I found myself kind of in this shimmering goldness, this experience of just luminosity, I would say, a kind of vibrant luminosity, to put words to it. And I've found myself very quiet. And then there was an inner voice that spoke that had a very strong kind of note of authority to it, not authoritarian, but just of knowing. And it was a little unusual, the tone. And what I heard is, you have been given a precious gift. It does not belong to you. It does not refer to you. It is not to be kept by you. It does not belong to you. It does not refer to you. It is not to be kept by you. And there was just this feeling of inner illumination and a sense of awe, actually, humility and awe and surprise, this kind of out of nowhere inner voice. And that's not a common experience for me. Usually it's not so much a voice as kind of an inner feeling that guides. So I was struck by the clarity of that. And when I returned to the cabin and went to my room, I wrote the introduction to the book. It just like poured out 4 pages in the matter of about 2 hours. And I've made a small addition, that little personal note I added later. And once it got into the hands of the editors, they made a few suggestions, good ones. And so I made a few small additions. But basically, the introduction was written in the High Sierra after that experience with the shimmering aspen grove. So I thought, okay, well, here we go. The book is on its way. And when I came down from on high, so to speak, back to Petaluma, where I live, and started to write, it quickly got stuck. There was a red light. This is very interesting. I started on the first chapter, and I got through 1 page, and the inner voice, this one, not the kind of the authoritative one, but I recognized more as recognizably kind of my own knowing voice, said, "Stop." And I could feel I wasn't quite clear, in my approach with what to write after the introduction, and so I stopped and I just sat with like, oh, so what is it? What is it that I need to attend to here? And what I realized was, if I'm going to write about the ground is multidimensional, right? There's a personal ground, an archetypal ground, the universal ground. These are layers in the human psyche and human experience, and true in the heart, true in the ground. And while the personal ground and the ground of being, or groundless ground, was very familiar to me, and I felt I could write from, the archetypal ground was less clear. It was interesting. So it was a matter of integrity and authenticity. It's like, if I'm going to write with really a grounded, authentic voice from this experience, I need to get to know the archetypal realm more intimately. So in this sense, as I was writing the book, the process of writing was, I was learning, I was listening, I was being written, so to speak, metaphorically. The book was writing me, we could say. There was this very deep interactive process, and so I stopped writing, and knew that I had to revisit the work of Carl Jung as an initiation into the collective unconscious, and to encounter it in a different way, because I'd read his memoir, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, when I was in graduate school, and I was deeply impressed by it. It struck me deeply, and I read some of Jung's other work, and then my kind of direction went elsewhere. And so I appreciated Jung, but I hadn't really studied him carefully. And in the meantime, between the 1980s and now 2020s, Jung's Red Book came out in 2009. And any of those of you looked at it, I tried to read it, it's a tough read. Beautiful illustrations, right? This huge, oversized red book. And I had seen it, friends of mine had it, and I kind of leafed through it, but the text is very challenging. And but anyway, this was my study. My inner knowing was directing me, and so really for a year I just stopped writing, and I dove into Jung, and particularly into the experience. Not so much like reading everything that he wrote, but more like feeling my way through the Red Book. And it's a dense and difficult text, and a rather obscure journey, a very tumultuous one that he had. And so I read other authors' comments about the Red Book, and then came back to the Red Book several times and completed it, and reread it, different sections of it, and until I had what I would say an inner sense or inner feel for what Jung's journey was. And I write about that when we get to the chapter on Jung. I'll talk about this more, but for those of you who've listened or read that far, I had a very powerful dream with Jung a few days before I began writing that chapter. So anyway, at a certain point, once that kind of process felt sufficiently complete, not that I profess to have any total understanding on the matter, but somehow, the red light turned yellow and yellow light turned green, and it's like, okay, go ahead. You can continue to write. And from that point, the book flowed very freely, very easily, over a period of about 6 months of writing, as I was actively doing other things. So that's something about the process of the book. You can see it's not like sitting down with a mind and, setting down an agenda and following it in some kind of rigorous way. Not at all. It was a much more intuitive, unfolding process. And what I'll say about it overall is, and this was the personal note I added to the introduction, there's an inner feeling of completion now. Not in terms of sharing or developing this work and having meetings like this and working with people, but in terms of the writing, in terms of feeling like there's something significant enough to say, to invest in writing a book and to bother people with having to read it. It just it feels like, oh, this was what wanted to be shared. And I felt this clarity when I was down in Southern California at the end of January, recording the audiobook over a period of 3 days. And after I'd finished the first day of doing the audio recording, there was just this kind of quiet knowing. And of course, I may contradict myself and write another book, but that would be okay. I always leave the door open, but it felt like it's done. The writing is done. And others will, develop it and continue. And that this is kind of part of a wave, part of an unfolding wave, and in a way, it feels like I've done my part as far as writing is concerned. And so this final book, I think, is complete. It's a trilogy. The 3 books relate to each other. The first book, In Touch, about the felt sense of inner knowing. And then in that, there are 2 chapters, one about the heart and ground. So the second book was about the heart, third book about the ground. And so there is that sense of having sufficiently explored, at least, and shared, my own understanding. So that's the background. of the writing of the book and the process that I thought you might find interesting uh, to hear about. The creative process is so mysterious, and and the living process, not just the creative process, but our lives, isn't it? Such a surprising and mysterious process to keep listening, and it was so interesting. There would be a green light, then a red light, and slow down and pay attention, something to learn here, something for further maturation, further understanding, and then, okay, that's clear enough. Not perfectly clear, but clear enough to continue. And so I think, that's a model not only for writing, but for living our life. So what I'd like to do then is open it up. And as Lisa was saying, unlike more general meetings that we've had online, I really want to focus on the material of the chapters as we go through it. And in particular, what may have struck you, what resonated or what was confusing, either what was resonant, what was dissonant. Maybe you disagree, that's fine. We can talk about that. What touched you, what puzzled you, what inspired you. We'll open it up and have a conversation about that. So if there's anything you'd like to share in your reading of these first of the introduction and the first 3 chapters, I'd love to hear. So Lisa you can raise your virtual hand and Lisa will call on you, and then you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, and just a reminder, in my screen, if I click on the react button, there's a little heart. When you click on that, that's where the raise hand option comes up. Feel free to chat with me if there's any confusion about how to do that. All right, go ahead, Sloan, go ahead and come off mute.
Hi, John.
Hi.
My question or my comment is a jumping off point of your personal note. And there's a sense for me of an incredible loving kindness message there. And mostly by your saying this will be the last book. It seems to, my experience is that I read the chapters and I gain some insight, but that's necessary but not sufficient. And then I do the meditations and the inquiries, and that helps. But what's most powerful and what I'm aware of is when you offer sessions and there's a group of people and there's the group field, there's just this incredible aha experience from the group field. And I'm hoping that this book group series will lead eventually to another series where there's even more emphasis on application.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate your comment. And it's very true. I mean, this is the value of community. This is the value of Sangha or satsang, coming together, lovers of truth, and sharing. And that potentiates the field, doesn't it? It brings it into the foreground of awareness. It becomes vibrant and shared, and that allows the unfolding of this understanding, person to person. So yeah, the group sharing is important, and even after this group ends, there are other groups like the meditative inquiry group that support
Yes.
that unfolding, and and I'll continue to do in-person retreats with Christiane, my wife, and online offerings, and it's a time-honored tradition, isn't it, of people coming together and sharing their understanding and supporting that unfolding in one another. Yeah, so that quality of shared presence is very important.
I think just one final comment to that. I think this is incredibly timely and important in this post-COVID fourth turning period where there's just this absolute need and desire for connection on an emotional level. And this is so very timely, what you're doing.
It's true. We as human beings need that connection to thrive. And the connection has many levels to it, doesn't it? Right? We connect in and just sort of ordinary sharing of the news of our lives, and we can connect deeper ways and emotionally, as you say, and energetically and spiritually, and that connection is deeply nourishing, isn't it? And so important, particularly when we're dealing with so much fragmentation and polarization. You can almost feel like the seams, of orthodox connection are, being highly stressed, and and therefore really attending to the deepest currents and roots of connection are very important, because it's very ungrounding, right? When you read the news and you feel this polarized fractionalization happening, not only is it important to be with kindred spirits and feel that support, but also to really attune with our deepest connection with all of life. Yeah, so thank you for that. Good to see you.
Noel.
Hi, John.
Hi, Noel.
Something happened yesterday that was so profound that is related to these 3 chapters and the difficulty I've had in feeling held.
Hmm.
You offer in the first pages and repeat. And I had stopped in my car by a parking lot, debating whether to enter it or not, and then deciding to do it. And when I started turning, I hit a biker
Oh,
and he fell on the ground.
oh,
And I was struck by the horror of harming another human being.
oh,
I stopped the car and came out, and I met this incredibly old man. And he was already had picked himself up, and he said, "You didn't put your turning lights on." And I said, "I am so sorry. I did not put my turning lights on." And then I said, "May I have your name?" He said, looking at me, "No." And he said, "Just put your turning lights on." And he started moving on. And he left, and I went into the parking lot on my way to an Al-Anon meeting for the first time in 25 years. And in the meditation, I went back to him to thank him, but I also then I discovered that I was being held by him, not holding on to what had happened between the two of us.
beautiful.
And that is so profound, to feel held by the ground, because he did not interfere nor wanted to hold neither to the accident nor to me. And so I felt like I wanted to share that with the
Oh,
group, because it feels so profound in such an uncanny way.
it's very surprising and beautiful experience. You are held by his letting go.
Yes,
We are held by the letting go, right?
yes,
He didn't need to hold on to it. He didn't need to make anything about it. It was just very matter of fact. Just remember to use your turn signal, right?
yeah.
That's really the only thing, the only takeaway is that. So that freedom, right? And
And
there's a,
heart, his
and from that, yeah, that comes from really a deep place, and
yeah,
you receive that.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Um,
That's very touching.
Thank you. And I feel gifted to be able to share it, because it has a collective aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful to be here for a year with all of you. Thank you, John.
Yeah, that's heart wisdom, because easily the mind could say, "Oh, he didn't care," right? The reason he didn't want, to give his name is because he was defended and hurt and didn't care about. You could go in a very different direction with that, couldn't you?
Yeah.
But your heart wisdom actually found the truth of it,
Mm,
and that's I would say a tribute to your maturity, Noel.
thank you.
But there's nothing personal in it, right? So even when I say your maturity, what am I talking about?
Like,
To maturity, I would say, to an unfolding heart wisdom that's implicit in all of us, and it's a matter of grace and gratitude to discover that, isn't it?
in the
Yeah.
meditation.
Mm.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Chris Harrison, welcome off mute.
Thank you. Hi, John.
Hi, Chris.
So I'm noticing I'm loving kind of revisiting this all this feeling into the ground aspect that I am getting through the book. What I'm noticing as I've become able to sense more and not be quite so mind driven in this, or trying so hard, that I'm feeling resistance. And it's very, Noel's story is very sort of apropos. It feels like there's a holding on to not letting go. And I notice that a lot of the time, it's not all of the time. There are times where that seems a little bit easier, and that sense of being held and being seems to be a big theme in my life lately. This can I trust life? Can I be held? Just even in the chair, can I? And there's something inside that, as soon as it sinks a little bit, wants to grip or wants to try again.
Indeed.
And I'm noticing, like, there's been a lot of releasing, especially around my tailbone area. So there's this greater sense of safety. So I notice this in my breath when I'm trying to breathe in and out of the ground, where there's like a catch. It
That's right.
can't empty completely.
That's right.
Yes. And so my internal voice has become less harsh. It's less trying to fix that problem, or more being able to really greet it, as you say, with loving curiosity, warmth and tenderness. But that's really, I noticed it in the guided meditation. If you can say a few words or work a little bit
Well,
with
let's
just how to be with that a little bit better.
well, so even as you spoke about that tenderness and that loving curiosity, it felt like, oh, there's a door right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, and we can work a little bit with this, which is fine. But I just appreciate your honesty here and your vulnerability. And it's like, okay, this is my experience, right? There's less and less judgment, more and more just, this is what's happening, not what I should experience. What am I experiencing? And a subtle quality of attention, like I notice how my breath it gets caught and doesn't release. And I can feel some release happening, and I can feel some resistance happening. So I think you're reporting for many people, right? And we're all doing each other's work and exploration here. Many people can relate to what you're saying. And so my invitation to you and to everyone, is just rest back a little bit. Let's take a few deep breaths. And resting back it's a bit of an intuitive process. It's not efforting, it's an attuning. This is just a sense of opening to the background, sense of space and openness. Some sense of spacious awareness. we're stepping back in a way from ordinary mind, which tends to have an agenda, tends to judge. In Zen, it's called the backward step. It's good to take a minute or so just to attune. You have a sense of that?
Mm-hmm.
And then just welcoming this place of holding without agenda to fix or change. And then just noticing what arises. Mhm. And what comes?
When I first noticed the or actively warmly welcomed, there was a sense of gratitude that came up. And then slowly some constriction that was sort of on the left side of my body and moving around a little bit.
Mhm.
And it felt like maybe a part of me or that constriction felt like it could be seen safely now. A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That feels right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No need to understand it but I think I'm starting to feel how that attunement, right? Like it's to know and be
To,
with.
to be with, to be intimate with,
Yeah.
but not to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a very different quality of attention, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this part, whatever this part may be, feels the difference.
It does. I feel like my active mind has been trying to do it so long, and those parts know it's not safe.
Exactly.
So it's like a conundrum. It feels very relieving, and so that's why I'm saying it's just so lovely to now come back to this again with this kind of environment where
Mm-hmm.
it's just really sinking in again.
Exactly.
Okay.
And there are like layers to this, holding. Attempt to hold on in order to be safe. This is
Yeah.
this is really the safety theme, isn't it? And
Yes.
very young parts of the psyche are extremely sensitive to the theme of safety, and their way of being safe is to pull in and hide, or,
Yeah.
just, be not be seen, not be heard.
Don't look.
Yeah, don't look, don't listen, don't feel,
Yeah, that's a
right?
good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and these young parts are just waiting for this quality of welcoming, loving, curious attention, and they'll kind of feel the field, like,
Yeah.
is this genuine? Is this real? And if so, then there'll be a natural unfolding.
Yeah.
And
It's very helpful to hear you say that because it's easy for the mind to kick in with that too. And then it's like, oh, okay, we need to make this field now. And it's just like this trust
that's it.
of the process.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like this resistance or catch in the breath or whatever, it could be here forever, and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a kind of good way to check if we have an agenda or not
Yeah.
in terms of being with the process. So kind of let me step back a little bit, and using
Hmm.
your particular experience as an example. This is kind of why I wrote the book, because it's like, so many people quite naturally, I think we're all drawn to opening, to flowering. And both in terms of a spiritual awakening and as a human being in terms of just coming out, in our own beauty and tenderness, and our flowering, our individuation process, to use a Jungian term. But very, early on, we learn it's not safe, or we imagine it's not safe. Often it's not safe. And yet we keep that, conditioning into our adolescence and adult life. It affects relationships, work, self-care, affects everything, including our spiritual quest, particularly that, and often is operating unknowingly. And so this is why we see so much turbulence, among spiritual practitioners. I've got it, I've lost it, I've got it, I've lost it. Why am I acting this way if I know who I really am, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's like this willingness then to actually be closer, more honest, more vulnerable, more tender with our experience is really critically important for support the natural unfolding. Anyway, thanks for exploring, Chris.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And welcome our next Chris to come on off mute. Chris, you're still on mute.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes. Hi, Chris.
Okay. Hi, John. Chris Harrison actually was covering a lot of what I was thinking, and just to the thing that really got me is on page 20 about the head and about who I am, the parents I was born to, in this place, what works, the people I'm related to is all a facade.
Oh.
And I understand that, but what I struggle with, and I think it affects my ground, is that the proportion that I give my energy to all of that, whether I want to or not, because of demands made on me on a daily basis, affects my ground. Meaning, if I'm trying to feel things, but it's all coming back up to the top. And so my question is with the meditation, but on a moment to moment level, if I'm feeling that I'm overthinking things just because of demands of life, is there anything, an affirmation I can say, or to suddenly bring me back into a focus to that you might have any suggestions?
I appreciate your question. Thank you. And what you're describing is, I think, again, something we all experience is particularly interacting with friends and family. We are we're taken to be, a separate self and in a particular role and expected to respond accordingly. And so in a way, we're invited to regress continually, often, and particularly in family situations. And so our attention gets pulled out of the depths and into a more superficial and social interaction. How to support remembrance and recognition. And are affirmations helpful? I'm not a big believer in affirmations because I think they can help a little bit. But usually what I've noticed working with people is affirmations tend to also evoke their opposite. So, the mind is proposing an affirmation. Very often another part of the mind will knowingly or unknowingly propose a negation to the affirmation. So they tend to cancel out and create inner tension. So it's best to actually, if we can, kind of step back from or step out of the mind. And I find the easiest way to do so is when we notice attention is, we're revving up too much here, or we notice our attention localizing here, that's the first step. to recognize, oh, I'm really far away from my ground, so to speak, or from my heart. So that's step one, is just the noticing of that. And to be aware, be curious about that. Oh, like, how did that happen? You know? And so that kind of awareness and curiosity is helpful. But it could be in just the noticing of that, you're already out of it a little bit, right? You're not fully immersed in it. So that's part of it. So you've already, in the noticing, you know, have some space from that reaction. And then it can be as easy as taking a breath. Taking a slow, deep breath and letting attention drop down and in. So I've been, I've tried to make this as simple as possible, kind of digesting decades of experience of working with people and simplifying and seeing, what is it that works best for most people? And I can't claim to have the answer to that, but that's been my, investigation. And it feels like just recognizing, okay, attention is caught in the mind, and then that becomes a signal, if you will, a reminder to let attention drop down and in. So there's kind of dropping down and in to the core of the body is a very helpful step. And just by following the breath, taking a few slow, deep breaths and remembering dropping down and in can be quite helpful. Then another step can be resting back, as we did with Chris, an invitation, once we've kind of landed more here, out of busy mind, more into present experience and breath, then a resting back. And a resting back is just an attunement, not an effort, but an attunement with a sense of background space. And that can, and that could happen in a matter of 3 minutes. It can, and sometimes we may have to take a little break, go into another room, take a few deep breaths, allow attention to drop down, rest back. And then as we get a sense of this, as the conditioned body-mind entrains with this, we could say more mindful approach, we can notice it when we're engaged also. Because ordinary thought can continue. We don't need to actually isolate ourselves, or we can actually, in the noticing of it, attention can shift and down and in, rest back. And in the resting back, we're open to the ground. Then if that would be the next step, is just to feel the breath below the body and anchor attention. And then it becomes spontaneous. That's the interesting thing. It's, I'm kind of presenting it as a step-by-step process, but it can be very intuitive too. We can just, remember our breath, come to the ground, and then we just sense there's space and a sense of presence, and we're home again in a way. So these are little skillful methods or means along the way to attune with something that's always here. So these are like little glimpses, I would say, during everyday life, and they're complementary to a sitting practice. Sitting practice for some period, I think, particularly when we're new to this, is quite helpful. And at a certain point, a formal sitting practice becomes nice but not necessary. And we find, that our meditation is continuing off the mat, off the zafu, off our regular time, and more integrated into our ordinary life, and particularly into relationship, right? Because that's the most challenging area and the most compelling area.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Bonnie, welcome.
Hey, John.
Hey, Connie.
Very happy to be here.
Yeah,
and thank you for your beautiful, generous offering.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. My question is around, like in my book, it's page 15, the challenge of embodying our spiritual understanding. And to make that more clear, it's for me that paradox of it should not be about self-perfection, But at the same time, there is this strong desire for liberation, for love, for compassion. And I know that if I get and understand and deepen and feeling my contractions, the core beliefs, and the emotions that go with that I get to more freedom, and that in that freedom there is like what I saw in Noel, that possibility to not go into the nervous system that is contracting and maybe really kind of, oh my gosh. But then, I mean, really to go there and open up. So that's what the gift I received from Noel today. And so I sit a little bit in this paradox. And if you have anything to offer of how to soften or how to be with that in a good way so that I don't feel so driven, so it's not becoming a striving.
That's right. It's about striving, isn't it? So I think I want to come back to you, Connie, with this inquiry, if it's all right.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a way, it feels like the answer is in your question. Like you've just identified the most important aspect of it, is that there is a striving. Okay. And our true nature does not strive. It is the mind that strives. And mind strives because it's based on a sense of lack. So this is a very subtle and deep point.
It's here.
It's here now.
It's talking. I'm just keeping it silent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's loud.
Yeah, it's. When you say it, you mean
the mind voice.
yes,
saying
exactly.
like the core belief.
That's it. And what
I'm
is
leaving
that?
out the limit. It is it's but like I have to. So there's already effort into it. Because
Right.
otherwise, actually here it is. I will leave. Because this is just too hard to be in a body. I have to strive because otherwise I don't want to be here.
Good to recognize. Let's just take a minute with this, okay? And for all of you for whom this may be relevant, whatever your individual stories may be about striving,
Yep. In other words, like, I'm working my way down into my body, but I know that the nature, like the way, like the universal ground, I don't feel pain in that. I feel the oneness. I feel peace. But to bring this into embodiment for me, the only way so far I've found is striving. Because it's almost like I have to pull a really resistant part of me along that says, why would I go there?
Okay, so let's explore this just briefly, okay? Like, in this moment, experientially, I invite you to not strive. I invite you to see through this old belief. And actually to discover what's true now about this. And don't think about it. Don't strive for an answer.
Hmm. What comes is that there's more to be felt on the heart level
Mm,
that I've not been willing to feel because it's so excruciating, painful.
mm,
And yeah, that just to be, it needs patience,
mhm,
a willingness, as you said, like not a willfulness, because that's the
mhm,
striving. I can feel the
mhm,
differentiation now.
mhm.
A willingness to actually kneel down, dignify that pain.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
That feels,
feels right, doesn't it?
yeah, thank you. Very tender, like the vulnerability you were talking about.
That's
That's
it.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank
Y-
you.
You're welcome, Connie.
Mm.
Karen, welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Taryn.
Hello, John.
Hi.
Such a pleasure. It's been
Yeah,
a long, long time.
it's been a long time.
Thank you. And my journey's gone off in a way of surrender and allowing that has been wonderful.
Beautiful.
Question is, but not very physical, but my question is that when you started the book and said, pay attention to your body as you read this,
Hmm.
then on page 28, when you were speaking of this woman who said her perineum is opening. So my experience has been extremely physical. And I had no words for it. I didn't know who to talk to about it because I feel this entangling intensity up my legs, and then this feeling it's like a huge arousal. It's opening that it's like oceanic, and it's just but I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. I didn't know that was, well, thank you, because I feel when I read that, I thought, no, wait a minute, this is not so unusual. You're not going bananas.
No.
Okay. But,
Mm.
and then I just maybe enjoy it more.
Yes. Yeah. Trusting. So
Yeah.
this is it. This is where it's helpful actually to have a little bit of feedback. Oh, we just lost Taryn.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, I see iPhone Rowena on the screen. Oh, you're back. Okay. Um, yeah, um, it's just helpful to have an accurate reflection, I think, and support that this is a natural upwelling, right? You know, and there's this is actually the fruition of the opening of the ground.
Mhm.
This is the upwelling of an essential life current.
Makes me want to cry. It's just
Yeah,
so beautiful. I so appreciate this, John, because that's what I got from you so many years ago was the mirroring that I needed.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, this is what happens when we really give ourselves to source, you know, and it has a spring-like quality arising from the depths, from the fathomless depths arises this essential life. And this is a fruition of your many years of very deep and authentic investigation. And there's nothing to do about it. It's what it does with us, right? Like the mind says, what should I do or what do I do with this? Answer, wrong question. It's like, oh, what does this want to do with me, with this life? Right? It's much more that. Like, what is the offering then? How does this want to be shared? And it doesn't have to be, some grandiose, it can be just with friends and family and in the moment. And, it has a spontaneity to it, right? And it is, it's very touching. It's so life-giving,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Marcia.
Thank you. thank you for this book, John. And I've been wanting to be with you in person for a while, and that hasn't happened. So this is,
So here we are.
I jumped on this as soon as
Good.
you offered it. Your book has touched me in so many ways, and the exercises that you put in have been very powerful for me, both in just helping me find a deeper sense of ground, which was already something I've been doing since way before this book came out. But then also, oftentimes, the exercises like today, you just started saying a couple words. The simple exercise that I've probably done, I don't know, 100, 200 times since I started the book, like immediately, like so much resistance comes up and something so wanting to be here. And almost every single person, so thanks to everyone who came before, has, you know, something has touched what's happening here. It's happened a lot with these exercises, these seemingly really simple exercises. Something wants to be met, I guess.
It does. And what is that wants to be met?
I only know it is and sensation. It's here.
Let's take a minute if it's okay. And just breathe and allow your experience.
It was like, when you said nothing to do or fix, that was like pissed me off right away. Or pissed off a part of me right away.
Uh-huh.
And now since Chris and Connie, there's more of a shimmering here, but it still feels like a lot of resistance
Hmm.
to something.
Hmm. This part that was pissed off.
Yeah.
Can we welcome this part forward a little bit and hear from it?
It's so strong. It's so strong. It wants to do something. It does not want to rest back. It wants to do something
So that,
so that I'll be okay.
okay, so it's based on a sense of not okay.
Yeah.
And what's the truth? Is it true that you're not okay in the depths of your being? What is the truth? What is your deepest knowing about this, Marcia? Take your time.
Yeah. This not okay part is so, I don't want to fake it like it's really strong.
Mm-hmm.
It's really front and center right now.
Mm-hmm. We welcome this part that feels not okay. What comes?
Just feels so dangerous.
Mm. Mm.
For this part, it feels like if I step back and acknowledge the part that knows it's okay, that this part will be annihilated in some way that
Mm-hmm.
hasn't had enough attention yet. It doesn't
Mm.
want to go away.
And it doesn't want to be abandoned.
No,
Mm-hmm.
no.
It wants to be tended,
Yeah.
cared for, acknowledged.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what your system needs. this quality
Yeah.
of loving attention to this part. So it's interesting. This is very common and not well understood process of, as our system, as we kind of follow the movement towards awakening and opening, there are parts that are very resistant to that because they don't want to be left behind and they don't want to be ignored or devalued. And that's very often why we have this kind of snapback experience of, openings and then closings again, because there's something that's needing attention here and a certain quality of attention, this kind of attention
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you're sensing now. And so this is why we don't try to overcome or overpower resistance. We actually embrace it.
Yeah.
With curiosity and affection, and without an agenda to make it go away or fix it or change it, right? But actually simply to be with it in this very tender way that you are now. And that would be my invitation to you and anyone else listening. It's like, this is why we slow down, and really tend tenderly to our experience and trusting in a natural pace of unfolding. And when at a certain point this part feels sufficiently tended to, attuned with, there'll be a relaxation.
Yeah. Doesn't feel like it's going anywhere now, so I might as well be with
yeah,
it.
and it's not about making anything happen or go.
Yes.
It's about being
Yes.
with it, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's been important to give this voice, is it not?
Yes.
I feel like I'm glad you're speaking your truth,
Yes.
right? Not to be ignored, right? But to
Yes.
actually, for this to be tended to bring attention to. So lovely. Thank you. This is where that kind of honest self-honesty is so important in this process.
Yeah. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
beautiful. Well, let's come back to the group as a whole. That's as far as we'll get with the Q&A today. These are such universal themes, aren't they? I think so many of us can relate to this process that those of you who have been courageous enough to share with the group. We recognize just how universal these themes are and how important it is to understand them and to be with them in a kind and skillful way. And it's so interesting, isn't it, that in the invitation to recognize our wholeness and to give up striving in the self-improvement project, it engenders a lot of resistance, doesn't it? And we can understand more clearly why that's the case and then how to respond to that as well. What I'd like to invite you to do just in the next minute or two is to go to, and I do this with my groups, is to go to the chat function and just type a few words or a sentence or two about what struck you today as you were listening. And then we'll take a minute to read through that. So we'll just do 2 or 3 minutes to share your experience today and read through it. And I'll quietly read through at least some of them. I know there'll be a lot of them, but So we get a sense reading through just how, deep and beautiful this sharing is. And it's lovely, really lovely. Okay, so let's see, anything I want to say at the end? Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Yeah, really beautiful, touching to be with you, to explore together. Next time we meet July 6th on Sunday, we'll be looking at the chapters 4 and 5, I think, is it? No, 3 and 4. Self-honesty, vulnerability, and discovering presence. I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to play around a little bit with the meditations. And I think we have the self-honesty and vulnerability. There's the inquiry, do I really want to know what's true? That's a very interesting question to sit with. And I encourage you to really be honest with yourself, because almost all of us are ambivalent about knowing. I certainly have been. So I would encourage you to, and then be curious about that. If you find, no, I don't want to know, it's just like really lean into that, not with judgment, with curiosity, and be interested to see what comes up for you. And then in the following chapter, there's a couple of meditations, sort of avenues to attuning with presence. And as you saw today, that's a critical skill, if you will, or of attunement, not efforting, in terms of being with our experience. The more we can rest back in and as presence, the more experience just unfolds itself quite naturally. So I wish you a fruitful month playing around with these, and also to remind you that there are other ways to connect. And maybe, Lisa, you can say a little bit about the meditative inquiry groups, engaged non-duality, and anything else you'd like to say before we do a final goodbye.
Thanks, John. So I just wanted to clarify, I think it's actually chapters 4 and 5 for next time.
Is it?
But according to the, but anyhow, we'll clarify.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But you can always revisit chapter 3. I will send out.
Yes, 4 and 5. You're right.
So I'm recording all of these, and I will send you a link probably today, no later than tomorrow. You'll have a landing page with the Zoom link, the dates, the chapters, and the list of recordings. And I think, John, you also had mentioned that you're welcome to invite your friends and anyone you feel touched to share this with. So I'll just include the sign-up link for the book group. People can join as we go, and they can catch up on the recordings as we go as well. We also have a meditative inquiry coming up. The first Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific. Actually, Connie is going to host that. I'll be on retreat. But we have 2 of those right now per month. And we're actually going to be adding 2 that will be amenable to European and Australasian time zones. So we'll have 4 starting up over the summer. So I just put in the link for the meditative inquiry sign up. And let's see if I can quickly find the engaged non-duality. So if you want to engage in meditative inquiry, you're welcome to join that group. We have a meditation of John's. We explore an inquiry together, and then there's group sharing. As for the engaged non-duality, that's more for where do these teachings meet our response to our world conditions, to suffering, to climate crisis, to political upheaval, but more the systemic. So I think that's it. Let me see if I can find that. Just take me 1 second to grab that link. There it is. So this is for if you wanted to join that. These are all groups you can join and unsubscribe anytime. So otherwise, just thank you so much, John, for saying yes to this. And thank you so much, all of us, for showing up. I'm always struck by how we do this together. And it is a group field. and unfolding, and it's just so precious and so meaningful. So deep, deep gratitude.
So thank you so much, everyone. Beautiful to be with you. And you can unmute yourselves and we can say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.